if a regular person is saying, okay, lying off the table, record off the table, and by the way, the record is pretty bad for Biden, financially at least, when I look at my finances, then who am I voting for? A guy who promised to be the unifying chief who's lied through the nose and leaves me with lint in my pocket.
Is there a bigger threat to democracy than a president who is incapable of actually carrying out the duties of the job mentally and physically, and then a team around him covering that truth up? And you talk about lies, they're lying about whether the president can actually serve in office. That's a threat to democracy.
All right, guys, I hope you had a great 4th of July. I did. I love this holiday. Don't worry. I didn't get a cold. I don't have jet lag. I'm rip-roaring, ready to go all week. We are 10 days out from the RNC starting. So much to get to, and I cannot believe that this fallout from Joe Biden is getting worse and worse and worse. Congress is back in session this week. That means a lot of people with cameras in their face. The NATO summit is here in Washington, D.C. this week. That means a lot of cameras in their faces. Then he's having a press conference Thursday. A lot of opportunities for problems. A lot of downside, not a lot of upside. So this is going to be a big week, and we're going to break it all down for you, and then obviously try to preview the VP pick, the convention, all that. Before I get to this panel discussion, and by the way, Newt Gingrich is going to join us tomorrow. Big show with Newt Gingrich to break it all down, and Newt adds a perspective that I just always love. I do want to tell you, with everything that's going on in the economy, about my friends at Bishop Gold. You've heard me talk about them before. I made a decision. I've heard all these ads, and I know you do too. You get hit up digitally, you see it on TV, the radio, whatever, about investing in gold and silver and precious metals. I had heard about that as well. I was interested. I called my friends at Bishop Gold. I went to bishopgoldgroup.com/Sean, bishopgoldgroup.com/Sean, and had a conversation with them about what my investment strategy was, what I was looking to accomplish. And I made an investment with Bishop Gold Group in precious metals. They can break it all down for you. They can talk to you about your particular strategy, what makes sense for you, whether you've got just some money you want to invest, an IRA that you want to roll over, a 401k, whatever it is. The folks at Bishop Gold Group are the folks that I trust. They have a ton of integrity and knowledge about this field. Don't just go to anybody. I know you get hit up all over the place. Go to where I trust, where I actually put my money. You hear a lot of people talking about it. How many people put their money where their mouth is? I did. bishopgoldgroup.com/Sean is where you want to go. Plus, you get a free gift. And in this world, in the Biden economy, where can you get a free gift? All right. Let me just say this. I've got a lot to get to with the panel today. The first thing is the Stephanopoulos interview. If I've taught people nothing else, I've taught them about not going to crowd size, right? This is what Joe Biden was asked and how he answered it with respect to crowd size. Take a look.
What's your plan to turn the campaign around?
Saw it today. How many people do you draw crowds like I drew today? You find me any more enthusiastic than today? Huh?
I mean, I don't think you want to play the crowd game. Donald Trump can draw big crowds. There's no question about that.
He can draw a big crowd, but what's he say? Who's he have? I'm the guy supposedly in trouble.
You don't want to play the crowd game. Oh, my God. I played it. How did that work out, Joe? Pro tip here. Pro tip. Don't go to crowd size, especially with respect to Trump. Dude, oh my God. Of course, he's not taking any lickings in this. Before we get into it with the panel, though, I want to tell you about a big warning that I have. Be careful what we wish for. Everyone's talking about the 25th Amendment and all this stuff. I get it. We know what we have with Biden. Videos, decades of quotes, and his record for the last 3.5 years. This is a winning campaign like I've never seen in my lifetime. If he walks out, I get it. We'll still probably win, right? It's Kamala Harris, whoever. But why take the chance with somebody new? It sets up a whole new dynamic. Play the hand. Do not force them out. Let them do this if they're going to do it. Republicans, shut up. Shut up. Do not cause him to drop out. We have a winning hand. Play it. Don't force them to walk away from the table because, yes, will we beat someone else? Yeah, but I don't want to take my chances with a new equation or a new formula or have to get new opposition research. This is the best campaign I've ever seen in my life. Let's play this out. All right. We have a great panel coming your way. Larry O'Connor from WMAL's O'Connor and Company. Patrice Onwuka with the Independent Women's Forum. And she does and makes O'Connor and Company a better show every Friday as well. I want to get into it with them. Let's jump into it. All right, guys, I hope you had a great 4th of July weekend. Larry, how did you celebrate? I'm sure with some very expensive wine on some dock in Annapolis, right?
No, we're not elitist here. It's a fine blue collar kind of town. Annapolis is not like
that's always, I get that feeling. Annapolis, very blue collar.
With the $1 million mansions, Larry.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah. Patrice, did you have a good 4th?
I did. I managed to sneak in some Top Golf, even though I was hobbling around on my broken toe.
Oh, I'll tell you, I do love the 4th of July. There's something nice about everybody pausing, the theme being America, flags flying everywhere, not having to run around and get gifts. And I'm a huge, and it's also the nice weather, right? I mean, I love Thanksgiving too, because it's a nice pause from the hectic schedule. But I feel like it gets cold then, whereas right now it's nice and warm and you can be outside. Anyway, Larry, you brought up elitists. Or maybe Patrice brought up elitist with respect to you. But regardless, Joe Biden...
It's easy to get us confused, Sean.
I know.
All
right. Joe Biden does a surprise interview with Morning Joe this morning, which I felt like normally would be called a staff meeting. And he blames the elitist, Larry. Is this offensive to you?
I'm here for 2 reasons, pal. One, to rebuild the economy for hardworking middle-class people, give everybody a shot, just a straight shot. Everybody gets a fair chance, number one. Number two, remember all this talk about how I don't have the black support? Come on, give me a break. Come with me. Watch. I'm getting so frustrated by the elites. Now, I'm not talking about you guys, but about the elites in the party who they know so much more. If any of these guys don't think I should run against me, go ahead, announce for president. Challenge me at the convention.
Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski are actually the Wikipedia picture for the elitists. And by the way, there's the only thing more elite than Mika and Joe are the viewers of Morning Joe, because honestly, their viewership is Georgetown, maybe Falls Church, and Kalorama in D.C., and then the Upper West Side in Manhattan. That's it. That is elitist.
You know, the funny part is I'm sitting there thinking to myself, Biden's like, I want to blame the elitists. And like, there's 8 people in the Hamptons that are like, Muffy, turn down the espresso machine. I'm trying to listen to Biden on Morning Joe. Patrice, I get a kick out of this. This is like excuse after excuse after excuse, right? And so now it's the elitist fault. And I feel like the one thing that we'll get into the Stephanopoulos interview for a second. The one thing I gave him quasi credit, and I want to be clear on that quasi, is that at least he kept saying like, my fault, I wasn't. And that was smart after all the narrative about the staff. And here he is again. It's everyone else's fault. It's the elitist fault for asking him to drop out. It's like, dude, you don't get it, do you? It's not the elitists that are the problem here.
Yeah.
Well, so if you've noticed, this is a shift in his messaging. And I think it's really intentional because it pairs really well with where the campaign is really trying to shore up their support. Now, President Biden is saying, oh, you know, my real support, my backbone are the blue collar workers, the union workers, and the black folks. And just watch me. Like in that interview, he's like, oh, I know the black folks. I've got black friends. Just watch me. When I go to the black church, they link arms with me and I clap off beat, you know, so it's not surprising he's trying to distance himself from the East Coast, West Coast elites and make himself seem like the traditional old Joe that you know from around the way. It falls flat because when he talked about from an economic standpoint how his number one job has been to, you know, make the economy great and level the playing field. Well, what playing field do we have now? In consumer prices 20% higher than before. Whether you're talking about the poor in this country, middle class is feeling the pinch, and even wealthy people are starting to feel it now. So I guess maybe that's what he's delivered. He's delivered pain for everybody. It's not going to work, Joe.
The thing that's funny, Patrice, you touched on something, and I don't know if it just sort of triggered a thought I had over the weekend that I want to fully express now. After the debate, Biden goes out there to that rally and says, I may not walk like I used to, I may not talk like I used to, but I know how to tell the truth.
Folks, let me close with this. I know I'm not a young man.
State the obvious. I don't walk as easy as I used to. I don't speak as smoothly as I used to. I don't debate as well as I used to. But I know what I do know. I know how to tell the truth.
And I thought to myself, are you kidding me? Since you ran for president, the narrative has been that you plagiarize, you exaggerate, you make up stories, right? And I feel like that's the Achilles heel that the Republicans and the Trump campaign needs to go after that. So one thing that they are sort of like the message that I picked up all weekend. No one wanted to talk about his record. They wanted to talk about democracy versus an honest guy or whatever. And I kept thinking, really, he can't. He talks about his friendships, corn pop, being a professor at the university of this, graduating, having a full scholarship, and it's literally one. We call it what you will, a gaffe, a lie, an exaggeration. But for a guy to go out there and say the one thing I have, Larry O'Connor, is the truth. And I'm like, dude, your narrative prior to this week were that you plagiarized, over and over again, that you're a gaffe machine, a liar, an exaggerator. And that's what you want to hang your campaign on now?
Yeah, exactly. I think the Washington Post is for Pinocchio'd this guy the entire presidential administration, which is saying something because the Washington Post loves this man because, well, they're also part of the elitists. I think you're right. The Trump campaign should go after him on all of his lies. I mean, he actually perpetuated the Charlottesville find people on both sides lie during the debate. That's just a couple of days after a very well-known fact-checking website called it for what it is, which is a lie. Also at the debate, Sean, probably the most despicable lie a president can say, when he claimed that not one troop was lost on his watch as president. I don't care. Listen, a lot of things that Donald Trump may have said may have not passed the fact checker, but that one lie from Joe Biden is so despicable and so insulting to the American people and to those Gold Star families that the Trump team should hammer it every single day.
All right, guys, we've talked a lot about what's going wrong in America. Let's talk about what's going right. Delta Rescue. The folks at Delta Rescue, led by Leo Grillo, have done something we can be very proud of. They founded a no-kill sanctuary for life. If you've watched the show before, you know about all the great work that Leo Grillo has done with Delta Rescue. A no-kill sanctuary for life. Wow. We all have been to shelters if you're an animal lover, maybe rescuing a dog, maybe volunteering or donating or helping. The work of Delta Rescue is to provide the nutritional and veterinary care for these abused, neglected animals in need. Dogs, cats, horses, you name it. Everybody's taken care of. But it only happens because Leo Grillo has made this his life's work. And it only is sustainable by the donations from people like me and you. So if you can go to deltarescue.org, look at the great work that they're doing. It's amazing. But then see if you can help. $50, $100, $1,000. And while you're there on that website, you'll see an estate planning gift guide. Please think about whether you could make Delta Rescue part of your legacy. It would mean the world to Leo Grillo to know that the work that he started, the amazing work that he started, will endure for life. Thank you for your consideration. Go to deltarescue.org. And I agree with you 100%, just so we're clear that I'm on the same page. But my point is that his narrative, it's not just in the last week or at
his legacy, his career.
Yeah, going back to the 70s, it's been like making up stories about he got a full scholarship. He was he got accepted to the Naval Academy. Not true, not true, not true, not true. He has been lying for decades. I mean, that should be the thing. Joe Biden lying for decades and just boom, 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 boom. I agree with you on the debate stuff. Those are policy issues. He lies about himself. I took the Amtrak here. I did this. I did that. Those are all lies. And he gets away with it. And like I said, my point in saying this is that the one thing that they're leaving out there right now is saying, despite all of the bad record that we have, at least I tell the truth. And my point is zero in on that and go, boom. No, you don't.
Yeah, absolutely underscore that, because it's interesting. People now, the campaign and the left wants voters to weigh the candidates based on their character. And
see that
difference being.
I love that you brought that up. Love it. It's a sleight of hand. Forget the record. Look over here, shiny nickel.
Well, but here's the thing: if you weigh these two gentlemen, now you can say, okay, well, one embellishes, the other embellishes. So take that off the table. And what are you left with? You're left with mental acuity, leadership strength, and I mean, that's pretty, and probably oratory skills, right? In which case, if a regular person is saying, okay, lying off the table, record off the table, and by the way, the record is pretty bad for Biden, financially at least, when I look at my finances, then who am I voting for? A guy who promised to be the unifying chief who's lied through the nose and leaves me with lint in my pocket. And so I hope that that's where we start to see the messaging from the media or from the conservatives and those who are trying to call out Biden. That's where they should go. I'm glad you raised this.
Patrice Onwuka for campaign manager and chief strategist, because that's exactly what we need. Is that take these things off the table because they just keep trying to shift the narrative. Don't focus on our record, focus on this, right?
Well, and if I could throw one more thing to take off there, because they keep saying Trump's a threat to democracy. Is there a bigger threat to democracy than a president who is incapable of actually carrying out the duties of the job mentally and physically, and then a team around him covering that truth up? And you talk about lies. They're lying about whether the president can actually serve in office. That's a threat to democracy.
Exactly. Yeah, I know. Again, let's not focus on that. But let's just go back to this interview for a second. I was going to, this threw a little bit of a wrench into this, but let's focus on this. In this interview this morning with Biden, he blames the elitists. He's defiant. I'm staying in this race. I will be the nominee, which in itself is pathetic that you have to say that. But let me ask you, where are we, Larry O'Connor? If you said to yourself, in a week from now, when I look back on this, is it he's locking this thing down? Is the dam broken? Where do you assess this right now?
Yeah, we entered the weekend with a good handful of House Democrats publicly saying that he should step down. And then that rumor that Mark Warner, the senator from Virginia, who was pretty well respected in the Democratic Party, that he was putting together a group of elder statesmen to go and talk to the president about withdrawing his name. That disappeared. I don't know if this is pressure from Jill Biden. I don't know if Barack Obama and the powers that be and donors have determined that the best way forward is to just stick with their guy, or if they recognize it's going to be a very ugly fight. I thought we were heading into a weekend where Joe Biden was dead man walking, politically speaking.
You don't think he is?
A week from now, yeah, I still don't think they can do it. I think they got to pull the trigger on him, and I think they got to get him out. The problem is they got to convince him.
And but that's the breaking down. I felt like, in sixth grade when they used to analyze the sentences. Who's the they?
Yeah. I think that it's a combination of the donors and the power structure from Team Obama. There are a lot of people within the administration who are holdovers from the Obama administration that have been actually writing policy for this president. I think that Joe Biden and the Biden team know that the Obama people still have a strong sway on the party. Listen, if Barack Obama comes up and says, I love Joe Biden like a brother, but we can't go forward with him.
I'm sorry. This is where I will disagree with you. I think that Biden is so pissed about 2016 and getting shoved aside for Hillary Clinton from Barack Obama that the last person that he wants to hear from right now is Barack Obama. He's like, remember when you said that I had to sit on the sidelines because Hillary Clinton could win? And what happened? We elected Donald Trump. Then I ran. You guys didn't get behind me. I beat that guy. So I don't need to be listening or lectured to anyone but, from the likes of you, Obama. I'm the guy that showed you who is better and smarter, and you need to respect. I really do think he's got a chip on his shoulder, and he says, you don't respect me enough for my political savvy, and look at, you were wrong, I was right. I mean,
maybe that's what he's talking about when he says elitists.
Yeah, but Patrice, I want to break down a few of the things that Larry brought up. The first thing is this. The debate is Biden's. He owns it. He screwed up. That's his. But Larry said something really interesting about the Mark Warner letter, right? So Mark Warner, very influential senator from Virginia, chair of the Intelligence Committee, was gathering this group of senior Democratic senators to potentially push him out. The meeting got pushed. It's now going to happen Tuesday at their regular conference meeting, right? And I think that Larry's right, that the powers that be in the White House pushed it off. And this is the point that I want to get at. Biden owns the debate, but his staff, here we are. What is it, 10 days later? Where were these phone calls? The second that the crisis happened, his campaign staff and the White House staff should have been on the phone with Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer, Mark Warner, Jerry Nadler, who cares? Everyone they could. Pick up the phone. Hey guys, just bad night. Here's the thing. Here are the talking points going forward. The president's going to push. Boom, 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 boom. 10 days later, they wait till Mark Warner floats a letter and then call him and go, hey, Senator Warner, could you maybe not have that on Monday? I mean, this is horrible staffing. And I hate to, as a former staffer, I hate to throw staff under the bus. But the fact is that 10 days later, Patrice, where like, these guys, like, is this their first rodeo?
I don't think it's their first rodeo. I just think they don't have a lot of respect for Congress right now. I mean, I actually think it's because they don't feel like the Washington insiders and the members who are coming back today matter as much as who they have on the ground. Biden was in Pennsylvania over the weekend, and I was listening to Selena at Washington Examiner talk about how, you've got the Josh Shapiro, who's the governor of Pennsylvania there supporting Biden. You've got a lot of the rank and file members on the ground. And so there seemed to be a lot of on the ground support for Biden. And I think that the Biden campaign and team think that they can kind of hop over members of Congress, especially those who are making the most noise. And those tend to be the ones who are in swing districts or lean right districts right now, those who are in the fight of their life. So I feel like they think, okay, everybody else, like the Hakeem Jeffries of the world, will get in line. Now, it's interesting that you have the chairman of a few important committees. Let's see, Jerry Nadler, Joe Morrell, Adam Smith, Mark Tucken in California come out and say, no, he needs to step aside. Maybe that's a little bit more pressure. But again, I think their campaign is looking beyond Washington for their marching orders. And what happens this week, whether there's going to be enough groundswell for members of Congress to nudge him, I don't think that has as much sway as what's going on the ground. And I don't know where he's coming from.
So let me pull that thread.
Things on the ground.
Let's pull that thread a second. So on the ground, one of the points that was made in Playbook this morning that you touched on was all the people who are coming out against him are white. And the point that they made is there's not a single black member of Congress who has come out against him. Okay. And that their argument, the Biden campaign, which is, I think exactly what you're touching on, is, you know what, you elitist white snobs in Congress, the backbone of the Democratic Party are black men and black women, union workers, and boom, 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 boom. And they're not calling for me to resign. And I think that is exactly what you're pointing to, is that their view is, so is it that? Is it that until, Al Sharpton comes out that they have a problem?
You're going to have to get, it is going to be some black leaders. For example, the Congressional Black Caucus, they've been pretty quiet so far. So or they've been saying Joe is our guy. I've been listening to a lot of the grassroots leaders and delegates on the Democratic side who are black. They're all saying Joe is our guy as of right now. So it is going to take some nudging on their part. And by the way, I mean, there's a lot to hold them to the accountable when it comes to Joe Biden and how he treats black people from a paternalistic, racist perspective. But if they feel like they can control Biden in some way, then they're going to stick with him until the end.
All right, hate to interrupt the conversation, but not everyone can fall asleep like Joe Biden and can just take a nap in the middle of the day. A lot of us, myself included, have trouble falling asleep and staying asleep, which is why I'm excited today to tell you about this new Dream powder from Beam. It is unbelievable and it tastes great, right? It's a cocoa that you take right before you're ready to go to sleep. It's a game changer and it tastes amazing. It comes in a variety of flavors, including chocolate peanut butter, which is so good, and cinnamon cocoa. Two amazing of the choices that they have for you. That's the best part about it. It tastes great, helps you fall asleep. And today, my listeners and viewers get a special discount on Beam's Dream Powder. It is their science-backed, healthy hot cocoa. It's got no sugar added. And here's the thing that I love about it. I've tried magnesium. I've tried melatonin. Dream powder has all of it in it, as well as reishi and theanine, L-theanine. It's amazing. It's got all these apigen, all of it mixed in together with melatonin and magnesium in one proprietary blend that is so good. So Try it now. Find out why Forbes and the New York Times are talking about Beam and why it's trusted by the world's leading athletes and business professionals. So if you want to try Beam's best-selling Dream Powder, and you get up to 40% off when you go to shopbeam/Spicer, shopbeam/Spicer, and use code SPICER for up to 40% off. Check it out now and have a great night's sleep on us. Speaking of treating black people, I want to play you a video that went viral over the weekend. Larry, let's take a look at this. This is him doing, what they call a rope line. And there's clearly a very enthusiastic young woman that is excited to meet him. Let's watch the video, and I want to hear you react. So there he is. She's excited to meet him, and oh, hi, bye-bye. Now, okay, Larry O'Connor, look at she's like,
her face, dude.
okay,
She's so dejected.
Is that are we making too much of that? I mean, because to Patrice's point, this is the backbone of the Democratic Party. Did that one image hurt him, or is that just something that folks here we're all on the right playing it? Are we giddy about this, or is that emblematic of a bigger problem?
It is emblematic. It's a visual, and visuals are very important in politics, as you know, Sean. But ultimately, I think there's an arrogance driving all of this. As Joe Biden said in 2020, if you're voting for the other guy, you ain't black.
It's a long way until November. We got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
He has this arrogance of assumption that the black voters are going to fall in line for him because they have been perpetuating this lie about Donald Trump. All of this, by the way, it's funny that we haven't mentioned Donald Trump's name much. This is all about Donald Trump. Joe Biden assumes that when all is said and done, everyone from Jerry Nadler to Mark Warner and everyone else, when faced with the specter of Donald Trump winning, they're all going to back him 1,000%. And on the other side of the equation, those who are worried about Joe Biden, it's all about Donald Trump. They have no love for Kamala Harris or anybody else. They just want to stop Donald Trump. That's the calculation being made here. And I think, yes, I think this visual tells you a story about Joe Biden and what kind of crass politician he is. And it's based on this assumption Joe Biden takes to every single room he's in, which is, you're black. You're already going to vote for me. I don't have to worry about you. It's these other voters I got to care about.
Patrice, is that a fair assessment, or are we just piling on here?
No, it's 100% fair. If I were that young woman, I would feel so embarrassed. I would feel like, wait a minute, this guy that I'm putting all of my hopes in, he looks at me like a piece of furniture, like a stanchion, like a rope stanchion, separating one person from another. He literally rubbed shoulders with this woman, if you keep watching the clip, to hug another white, maybe Hispanic woman behind her. And you know what? I think there have been a lot of young Democratic voters who have been disengaged from this campaign. They tend to be black men, but some of them are black women. And they feel like the Democratic Party takes their vote for granted. And this is a great example of that. Taking this young woman's vote, like he could have stopped to shake her hand. Sadly, this clip will only be viral here. It's not going to be on Joy Reid's show, because remember, Joy Reid told us over the weekend, folks, just tell me who I need to vote for. If it's a rock, I will check the box for a rock. And it's unfortunate that so many black voters will vote for the skeleton, the rock, the pillow on the chair before they will consider, and I hate using this language, but leaving the plantation and going out to a free world and figuring out maybe there's a different option out there.
Larry, let me ask you this. The cleanup was again, I blame staff. The idea that you needed days to figure this out and then be like, okay, we're going to go with Clinton's former spokesman, George Stephanopoulos, 22 minutes taped. Was that the right decision? And net, was it a net positive or a net negative to do the interview with Stephanopoulos?
All right. So if you buy the White House's line, which is he just had a rough night and he's
jet lag.
Yeah, it's a bad night, and he's completely on top of his game, sharp as a tack behind closed doors, and he's a master of all of the issues and in command of everything, then the right move based on that narrative, should it be true, would have been to go to Brett Baer or to Shannon Bream or to Sean Spicer for an interview, but they didn't do that. They
If
went
he
to
went,
the one
well,
guy.
just so we're clear, if he called me for an interview, I think they would be like, "You really are lost it." That I would even jump in on that. I'd say, "Mr.
What,
President,
have you got brain damage?" This is Sean Spicer, Spicer. They went to George Stephanopoulos because they knew of all of them that would be the easiest. This is where Alec Baldwin went after he shot a poor woman in the face. This is where you go for damage control. And if that was damage control, boy, oh boy, are they in trouble.
Patrice, he was asked a very simple question. I want to play this for you. Did you watch your debate? Now, there's two easy answers. Yeah, I watched it. And, God, like I said, I had a bad night. Okay. No, I haven't watched it. I knew what I did. I would. But this is what he said. He when he was asked by Stephanopoulos, a very simple question. Did you watch the debate?
And did you ever watch the debate afterwards?
I don't think I did, no.
The answer is, I don't know if I watched it. How does that help you? Like that actually, to me, I don't know if I watched it.
Well, he was being honest. I mean, for a moment, he was actually being honest. He didn't want to lie and say, yeah, I saw how badly I messed up. And he didn't want to say, no, because then it would seem like he's avoiding watching how his own deterioration in front of him. So I guess he was just being honest.
Couldn't you just say, or for option 4, I saw some clips. I've watched several clips of it because you would have. He has the TV on. He watches Morning Joe. I'm sure, you know what I mean? For everything we know about him, he could have just said, I've seen enough clips. I know what I did. Right. He
was trying to dodge, and he dodged the question really badly. And it came across as, well, I mean, on what world did you not see anything or hear anything about your debate performance? I just thought overall the way he presented himself was so cavalier, was so elitist, frankly, laying back with the grin on his face throughout, as though we're not talking about something as serious as your mental faculties as you lead this nation, as you want to make the case to lead it for another 4 years. He did himself no favors. I'm actually pleased with how Stephanopoulos went after him and kept bringing the conversation time and time back to, well, wait a minute. Questions that really forced him to answer about where he is mentally. And, you could tell that he had a lot of prepped answers from a policy standpoint, from a world affairs perspective. But he was thrown off when he kept getting those questions that asked him to challenge whether he is all there. And it comes across as though he's not.
Larry, the existential question, as far as I'm concerned, isn't whether he should run. It's whether he should serve, right? It's correct. For 4 years, you've just had this story come out about how you only work between 10 and 4, and that includes a nap. And that's not a joke. That's, to quote Biden, not a joke, folks. My uncle used to say, Joey, after lunch, take a nap. No joke, kids. When I was on the Amtrak, I used to just, fall asleep a little here and there and wake up with corn pop. I mean, I don't know how this is a reassuring sign. And that's where I think Democrats are missing the mark, is it's not, can he win?
There's something very gross about the entire conversation in the media and in the Democratic Party as to whether he should stay on the ticket. If he is incapable of running for re-election, he is incapable of doing the job as president of the United States. The American people deserve a full-time president that has all of his faculties, who can remember whether or not he watched his own debate over the course of the last 7 days. I think Patrice is right. He was being honest. He literally does not know whether he watched that or not. So, Sean, you're 100% right. I have a child who wears the uniform right now who can go to war based on this man's command as commander-in-chief. And I don't think anyone with any relative in the military right now feels comfortable with him being able to make that call or make that decision. This is an existential problem for our republic. And that's why these are serious things that goes well beyond whether he can win the election or not.
So, Patrice, he does these. It's funny. He does these interviews after after the debate. And he refers to these 10 radio interviews as major events, okay? Which I was thinking to myself, dude, that's sitting there and talking on a phone to a radio host for a few minutes is not a major event. Then it comes out via CNN, of all places, that each of these hosts were given 8 questions and they got to choose 4. Okay. Then the kicker is, first of all, that in itself, I cannot believe that the press corps is not apoplectic about that. How does a press corps not freak out that says these guys literally gave them 8 questions, says, hey, you get to choose 4?
Well, the press corps knows that's what happens with probably a lot of the White House reporters. They probably, do you want to ask a question of Karine Jean-Pierre? Okay, what question are you interested in asking? Okay, maybe not. I mean, I don't have any inside knowledge, but I'm guessing that this is a very common practice. This was not the first time. Obviously, the White House is very comfortable doing this, or the campaign is very comfortable doing this. But this is now the first time that anyone the legacy media wants to acknowledge what has been going on probably all 4 years of this presidency. Why? Because they don't want him on the ticket. CNN, MSNBC, Washington Post, all of the legacy media, they've determined they do not want him there. Now they've got to get everybody else on board. And now they've decided, we'll actually take transparency seriously. And we'll show the American people what's been going on behind the screen. They're pulling back the Wizard of Oz. They're pulling back the drape and pipe. And now you're seeing that the emperor has no clothes, and that the wizard is just, in a bed with something sticking out of his veins at this point.
The worst part is that, Patrice, they fired the radio host in Philadelphia who agreed to this because they say that she now pays the price for this. She got fired.
Yeah, she's one of the many Black women who now are on the unemployment line, which, by the way, unemployment for Black women spiked again last month. So thank you, Joe Biden. You are helping Black women in America, the ones who are going to vote for you.
I don't mean to be disrespectful, but for a guy who likes to talk about jobs, he just lost the job of a Black woman because he forced her to ask him silly questions. Larry, you brought this up earlier about the members of Congress. I just want to break this down for a second in terms of like a crisis, right? So the debate is the crisis. If they had done their job within 48 hours, they could have, I think, stemmed the tide. They would have had a problem. There's no question about it. But they could have locked down all of their top folks. We talked about, Patrice listed off Adam Smith and Jerry Nadler and Mark Takano, all these committee chairs, but it's getting worse, right? When asked, Nancy Pelosi didn't exactly give a full-throated endorsement to Biden. And then when they asked Clyburn, he basically was like, well, we'll see. He gets 3 strikes and he only had 1, and Kamala Harris would be a really good substitute. These aren't ringing endorsements.
They're not.
And I think the problem is they kind of tried to hold the dam for a second, and then these holes started to come through the dam. And the problem is, when I look at a crisis, if you can't patch the holes quick, I don't know how, and this is contrary to everything I believe right now, because I don't know how you replace him. I mean, but what the problem is that this is running in conflict with the fact that I'm watching these members of Congress who you mentioned and Patrice mentioned, and going, this isn't getting better, it's getting worse.
Right. Well, and you mentioned, I was going to say James Clyburn actually is the one outlier. He actually entertained the hypothetical as to, what happens if he steps down. And he immediately said, well, it's got to be Kamala Harris or nobody else. Usually James Clyburn would say, well, I won't even entertain that question because Joe Biden is our man. But he did entertain it. I think that's a signal. I think if somebody like James Clyburn...
By the way, Larry, he canceled. He was supposed to be on Face the Nation, and then he bails. What is it? I mean, to me, when I saw that, I actually thought there's an announcement coming.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that and remember, James Clyburn's the man who threw his weight to Joe Biden in the South Carolina primary in 2020, ensuring he got the nomination. That was the big turnaround for Joe Biden. So he's a major power player right here. Kamala Harris is the only option for them. And what's going to happen is when these members of Congress are on the campaign trail, and a lot of them are going to be campaigning next week because it's the Republican National Convention, if they have to spend over half of their time making excuses for Joe Biden instead of going after Donald Trump, it's over. That's what's going to be the final call here. And I think that that's exactly what's going to happen. If you're a Democrat voter and you've got the announcement of the big running mate for Donald Trump, and all of the media and all of the press is Donald Trump's to own next week, and you have to answer for Joe Biden because this thing has gone on for a third week running, it's over because they're going to freak out and they're going to panic.
Okay, so Patrice, let's set the stage, right? Talked about this earlier in the show. The NATO country leaders are in town for this big NATO summit here in Washington, D.C. So he's got all the members of Congress back. They're going to have microphones in their face Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, right? Thursday. He's got NATO leaders in town who are going to have microphones in their face Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Then he's going to have what they're calling a, quote, big boy press conference, which is the idea that Karine Jean-Pierre repeated that phrase from the podium.
You mentioned the press conference.
Yeah.
Is that going to be kind of the real big boy press conference we're used to?
Or big boy press conference.
Like one of these 2 and 2s that might be a little more limited.
So I believe, and I know you guys are holding me to it, I believe it's a solo press conference. We'll certainly have more to share with all of you as we get closer to next week.
More thematically.
We support big boy. Big boy Justin over here.
Yeah. Total side note here. I remember when we were doing this after action report, we called it the growth and opportunity report. Somebody called it an autopsy. And I'm like, please do not call it an autopsy. And once that narrative stuck, we were doomed. The idea that Karine Jean-Pierre repeated the phrase big boy press conference from the podium. Anyway, he's got a big boy press conference on Thursday. And here's my thing. Drip, 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 Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday from the members of Congress. But I think if the NATO leaders or their top aides are telling reporters, man, he was dozing off in the meeting, he forgot the name of the prime minister of X and X and XY, he's in trouble, and then he does the big boy press conference. This to me, I think that Thursday night is it. If he doesn't hold it together for the next 96 hours, I don't see how a member of Congress Friday morning wakes up and says, the prime minister of this, the president of that is on record saying he was diminished. His big boy press conference went off the rails. I really think Friday is our day to look at.
Well, I mean, this could be his no good, very bad week, right? This could also be a really good week. And I think, as I've been reading, I think maybe it was in Politico, some of the calculus maybe that Ukraine funding, which is, we've already seen President Zelensky come into town here in DC, that he's going to be looking for continued support. And the leftists will rally around the idea of continuing to support the U.S. providing aid to Ukraine. That could be a rallying point. Maybe then President Biden is able to take advantage of that and say, okay, folks, you were with me in the trenches when it came to supporting Ukraine. You got to stay with me. You got to steady the course. Our foreign policy agenda has been leading this world. Now, can he do that is the question. And I don't think he can. Listening to him with this morning with Joe and Mika Brzezinski on MSNBC, his posture is not we, it is me. It is you've got to save my bacon. I'm going to save my bacon at any cost, and you better get on board.
And that bacon costs a lot more now.
Well, it costs a lot more. I'll just, just end by saying David Axelrod, and I know Obama guy, and he's probably been the most consistently vocal against Biden, over the past few months. He said, listen, not only is Biden not going to win by a narrow margin, he is going to lose by a landslide. That kind of message trickling down across Congress, across the states, and the lower ticket positions, state houses, that kind of message getting widely spread is going to cut Biden off at the knees because he's trying to play the outside DC game, and he's failing even in the inside DC game.
No,
Larry, let me harken back to something I said at the beginning of the show.
Harken away.
Thank you. I love to hearken. What Patrice just said, I think, sums up the political landscape perfectly. Biden right now will lose to Trump, and he will take the Democratic House and Senate with him. I am concerned that we need to shut up more. If we on the right keep saying wow, look at all the problems, he's got to be replaced. At some point, it's going to happen. And I it's not that I don't think we can beat somebody else. I don't want to have to worry. It's like replacing a batter. Like, yes, that next year you might have a great pitcher, but I'd rather face the batter that I know has never hit all season than the one that's an unknown.
Yeah, I hear that. If it weren't for the dire straits our nation is in and the fact that we actually deserve a functioning president, I get it. If you just look at through the political calculation, keep Joe right there all the way through November. But there's bigger things involved here in terms of our republic and our military.
Fair,
and
but okay. So let me just play this out, Larry. I agree with you, but let's just take, and again, just suspend disbelief for a second. Let's say that you're, and I agree with you, we've got to get through between now and January regardless, right? But let's just say for hypothetical purposes that they hear our message. They go, you know what? The Republicans are about to run the table if we don't replace Joe. So let's get him out there and we put X in. Let's not pretend the name for a second. Let's just put X in. X wins or X doesn't cause us to lose the Senate and the House.
Yeah.
Then yes, we've kept Joe Biden maybe from but I think we need an absolute takeover in January to reconstitute so many of the aspects of this country that are in dire straits. And so that's my play on this. I get it. It's what's worse.
Yeah. No, you're right. And I think, listen, Democrats are thinking exactly the way you are right now too, Sean, and they're trying to make that calculation. That's why you've got the announcement from Warner and then it's called off, and you've got this suggestion and that suggestion and James Clyburn. Next week, if you're the Democrats, next week would be an ideal time to make this move. It knocks the Republicans and the Trump campaign off kilter the week during their convention. You know they've got video packages and speeches already prepared and written, all based on Joe Biden. Suddenly Biden's gone. It actually steals the spotlight from the Republican National Convention and the vice president running mate pick next week. My thought is that is what they're going to do, and it's because of the Senate and because of the House, as you just laid out there. They can't afford to lose as bad as it looks like they're going to lose.
Can you imagine? Oh my God, that actually is. I don't know that I can sleep tonight. That is the worst scenario I've ever thought of. If they did that, they would capture. I mean, they'd crush our convention. Yep. Oh my God. All right.
They rewrite the entire agenda for the convention if they do that, and then they got to shift on the fly for it.
Let me just end with this. A quick question. If we reconstitute this little gang 10 days from now, so let's make it that not this Friday, the following Friday, after the Republican National Convention is done. Mm-hmm. Patrice, is Joe Biden the nominee?
No.
Larry O'Connor, is he the nominee?
Nah, he's not.
Oh my God. All right. I can't believe I'm going to end there, but it's a Monday and we've got a lot to get through. And
John, can I just make one real quick thing?
I hope it's a very positive thing because I need something up.
It actually is. No, I actually think that the way to save the RNC message is to promote the biggest, boldest, brightest vision for America, not the 2020 Project 2025 that Heritage put out necessarily, but a big, bold vision that says, you know, this guy just hates, he's running because he hates me. I'm running for you. And this is what we can look like. This country will look like in 2 years, in 3 years, in 1 year from now. That is, I think, what people are hungry for.
Morning in America.
I'm glad you said that because we didn't get to this, and I'll talk about it this week. I think Trump has been pitch perfect. The guy has let Joe Biden just do what he has to do and gotten out of his way.
This has been the best time in his political career the last 2 weeks.
All right, guys. What a way to end it. He has. And there's our positive ending to this. A big week ahead, folks. Thanks for subscribing and kicking off your week with us. We are literally a week from the RNC starting, and we've got a lot of great guests lined up to give you the inside scoop as to what's going down, especially with respect to Trump's VP pick. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Continue to subscribe. Hit that notification button because you never know when we're going to go live. YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, iHeart, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get them, and obviously every night on the First, channel 347 on DirecTV. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.